What's up guys, Syiler here, and we are back on the Warlords of Draenor beta, continuing our series where we look at DPS classes, see how they've changed, how they're going to be, how much damage they're doing roughly, and give you a general overview of the classes. So in this video we're going to be doing Enhancement Shaman, obviously something I play quite a lot of in live, so we have a decent idea of what's going on. Now remember, the future classes might not be as done properly because, well, I don't play everything. So if you see me doing less damage than I should, just keep that in mind, kind of add that damage on top if you feel I'm doing like 10% less damage than I should be. Yeah, just keep that in mind. And we're going to be doing these tests in just the pre-made PvP characters. The PvE gear is now in, but I'd rather do it on these anyway because there's no set bonuses or like anything like that to skew with the results. This is just straight up, just stats. So we're going to be doing it with these. The only negative is the PvP trinket, which literally just gives us a secondary stat. So let's get started. First of all, what has really changed with Enhancement? The rotation pretty much remains the same. A couple of things have changed in terms of the rotation, but the general sort of enhanced feel is still there. We still hit with Storm Strike, Lava Lash, we still put up shocks, totems, that kind of thing is still there. Our burst isn't quite as heavy as it used to be, but we're still, pretty cooldown reliant, so that hasn't really changed either. In terms of what we've lost Stormlash, rip Stormlash. We got to use you for one expansion, and I kind of will miss Stormlash because it was nice having that utility cooldown for the raid. It made a big difference. Healing Tide Totem has also gone for Enhance, so another utility cooldown that we do lose, along with Chain Heal and Spirit Walker's Grace. Now Spirit Walker's Grace was quite nice for those, especially before they changed Lightning Bolt to be cast on the move. It was nice to be able to put up Spirit Walker's Grace and, well, cast on the move. So that has gone, so it takes out the mobility that we have. And you might be like, well, why would we need to use Spirit Walker's Grace anyway? Because we can no longer cast Lightning Bolt on the move either. So we need to stand perfectly still for those lightning bolts. So no more jumping, no more moving side to side with my lightning bolts. I will miss that, and that has been taking me a little while to get used to. Wind Shear no longer reduces threat either, but I don't think anyone really ever used Wind Shear to reduce threat. Unleashed Elements has been changed. It's now something you can proc on yourself. It's like a buff. It's no longer like a damaging spell. And it'll give you 2 buffs, well, I'll give you 3. One is movement speed increase, one is Unleash Wind, attack speed increased, and one is Unleash Flame. Damage dealt by your next fire spell is increased by 40%. So this is something you'll want to use, when you're running in. It gives a really nice, cool looking effect. So you'll want to use that before the pull and pop that, because you've got plenty of time to be able to use this before they actually go down. So you want to pop that, and it also gives you a bit of movement speed as well, so it'll help you get on top of the target without using Spirit Walk. Don't know where that's going to end up in terms of our priority now though, because Unleashed Elements, currently the way it works, we have it quite high in our priority, but I don't know where it's going to end up now. Flurry has also been changed. Melee haste effects lower the global cooldown and cooldown of your Storm Strike, Lava Lash, Shocks, Unleashed Elements, and Fire Nova. So before we'd get increased attack speed and more benefits from haste, and now we get that. I do like the new flurry. It means we're going to scale very, very, very well with haste, and it kind of cuts down that awkward period in our rotation a little bit anyway. So, and also that'll scale quite well with our lightning strikes. You gain 5% more of the haste stat from all resources, or from all sources. So that is good as well. Tremor Totem has changed a little bit. It no longer basically pulsates. It's more of a summons an Earth Totem at the feet, blah blah blah. Shakes the ground around it for 10 seconds, removed. Actually, never mind. They did mention they were going to move it to be more of a... Actually, I don't think you can put it down while feared. I think that's what they changed. So you need to preemptively put it down now. There's no more sort of putting it down mid-fear. If you're not the person feared, you can put it down, but if you are, you're going to have to just set out the fear. You won't be able to break out of it with the totem. As far as I know, that was what they were planning on doing anyway. Whether they actually went through that, I'm not too sure. Purge is still in the game, we've still got that. Mentioned Chain Heal's gone. Earth Shock is gone. Instead, we now use Frost Shock. So it doesn't really make too much of a difference to the rotation. It'll still be kind of that spell that we use when we literally have nothing else really to use. So no real difference there. And apart from that, that's about all that calls out to me in terms of big changes. I feel like I'm missing something fairly important, but yeah. That's the majority of the big changes anyway in terms of what we've lost. As the rotation pretty much remains the same, we haven't lost any major spells, we haven't gained any. So, you know, we're still going to have Storm Strike, Lava Lash, Unleashed Elements, Chain Lightning, Frost Shock, aka Earth Shock, and Flame Shock. So, you know, general rotation is still there. Still put down totems, stuff like that. One thing that has gone is weapon imbues. We no longer have to keep up weapon imbues. They've been removed. We no longer get to choose. You don't get to choose whether you want sort of Earth Shock, not Earth Shock, Rock Biter and stuff like that anymore. Instead, it is just a passive. Your Unleashed Elements. Wait, no. Where is it? Enhanced weapons. There we go. You imbue your weapons with the power of wind and fire. Each of your main hand weapon attacks has a 20% chance to trigger 3 extra attacks, dealing 1,666 damage. And each of your offhand weapon attacks cause up to 700 additional fire damage based on weapon speed. So, yeah, we no longer have to keep up weapon imbues. I'm okay with that. The amount of times I'd actually switch to a different weapon imbue was very low. They made it so you didn't need to switch to Frostbrand for PvP anymore. You'd have the set bonus, which would allow you to use Flame Tongue. And Rock Biter I'd literally only use for weird soloing mechanics. I would use the Unleashed Fury talent, and I would use Rock Biter for the damage reduction. Very, very rarely though. Like it was definitely not something I'd use. Like it'd be months between the uses basically. And then you may or may not also know, every few levels you'll gain new sort of improved abilities. One of them is when your Flame Shock deals damage over time, has a 15% chance to reset the cooldown of Lava Lash. So that is currently our Mr. Pandaria tier 16 set bonus. So they've added that into our passive, so we get to keep that, which I'm glad for. It is nice and makes AoE feel a little bit more smoother. And then there's other ones like increases Maelstrom damage. We have... There's others. They're out there somewhere. Oh, there's one that... I don't know why they're not all listed, but there's one that increases damage of feral spirits as well. So they do like an actual amount of damage now. Maybe they're in here. No, they don't seem to have all of them in the spellbook. It's weird. But there's definitely more out there. And there's one where you ank with more HP. And stuff like that. So there's a few out there. Oh, actually, I think that one's there. Increases the health that you reincarnate with by an additional 50%. So, yeah. Let's take a look at talents, see what's changed here. The first tier is the same. Yep, the damage values might be a little bit different, but for the most part the talents still do the same thing. This tier is also the same. Unfortunately, the 45 tier is still the same. Very, very lackluster. There's pretty much like one talent you can really pick from. And yeah, it's... the other two have certain use, but it's very, very rare. And I wish they changed this tier. It's just kind of boring. And the 60 tier, I think Elemental Mastery was due to get changed in terms of the haste you'd get, but I don't know if that's happened. Is it 40% or 30% on life? I don't know. I think it's 40, so maybe it got nerfed by 10%. I did see a change for Elemental Mastery, so that might be getting nerfed. And Ancestral Swiftness has been changed as well. Actually, I think they increased the cooldown. It was, yeah, it's 1.5 minutes, it's now 2. Ancestral Swiftness was changed, increases haste by 5% and attack speed by 5% at all times. So we're going to basically like haste. I imagine Ancestral Swiftness is going to be our go-to single target talent, just because of the haste. And Echo will be the AoE talent, and that's been changed as well. We'll get to that in a second. But before this was increases spell haste and melee haste, and now it's just increases haste by 5% and attack speed by 5%. So Enhance kind of double dips from that. The Elemental wouldn't, or maybe Elemental's changes because the talents do change now. So maybe they get cast speed. Not too sure. But anyway, that has changed for Enhance. I imagine this might be our go-to talent. Echo of Elements has been changed. Your spells and abilities have a chance to cause your next Lava Lash, Storm Strike or Fire Nova to not incur its cooldown. So you'll press Storm Strike and it'll flash, and basically Storm Strike will be pressable again. It doesn't work with Wind Strike, which is our Ascendant's old Storm Blast. Basically they changed it, so it doesn't work with that. I've tried it. It just works with standard Storm Strike, so we can't get extra amounts of Wind Blasts in, Wind Strikes, whatever you want to call it. Russian Stream's the same. Ancestral Guidance has been nerfed a little bit, so it isn't quite as strong as a heal. Conductivity was changed, but I can't remember what. I think the time that it lasts was changed, but Conductivity seems okay now. Whether we use that or AG, I'm not too sure. AG seems still okay. The fact that we don't have to really do anything to use AG, you know, it's off the GCD and we just literally do damage to heal. It's quite nice, while with Conductivity, to really make the use of it, you have to be consistently putting down healing rains, which is a GCD and 5 or less Maelstroms, depending on how you want to do it. Unleashed Fury has been changed. Empowers your Unleashed Elements, increasing damage taken by your target from Lightning Bolt by 30% for 10 seconds, and increases your multi-strike chance by 5% for 8 seconds. The other two talents have remain the same, apart from Primal Elementalist now affecting our Storm Elemental, which is our 100 talent. LA Blast has also been changed slightly. It now includes multi-strike, but that's about it in terms of that. And then we have our 100 tier Elemental Fusion. Your Lava Burst and Lava Lash increase the damage of your next shock by 40%, stacking up to 2 times even. Storm Elemental, a Storm Elemental to hurl gusts of wind at the casted enemies. Each gust of wind does damage to the enemy and heals all allies around for 15 yards for 100% of the damage dealt. Split evenly, lasts 1 minute. And then we have Liquid Magma, and by the way, you can't stack totems as normal. You can only have one elemental down at a time, so that'll remain the same. You can't have both fire and storm. And then we have Liquid Magma, 45-second cooldown. Empowers your current fire totem with the power of lava, causing liquid magma to erupt from it toward random enemies within 40 yards every 0.42 seconds for 10 seconds. Each glob of liquid magma deals 1,672 fire damage to all enemies within 4 yards. Now, for a little while, Liquid Magma was the better single target talent, and then they buffed Elemental Fusion, and then Elemental Fusion was very strong, and then they just decided to nerf both of them. And then both of them are kind of weak. They're okay, but, you know, the route to fixing it was to nerf them both, really. Storm Elemental, I don't really see us using this very often, to be honest. It felt lackluster, in honesty. It just didn't feel like it did enough damage to be worth a 5-minute cooldown and 100 talent, and it didn't feel like it did enough healing either. Might have been changed or tweaked a little bit since I last used it, but when I used it, I wasn't impressed, basically. So I imagine Elemental Fusion for single target. One thing to take note of, Elemental Fusion for Flame Shocks, when they spread, they aren't the empowered Flame Shocks, so you might be thinking it should be better for Cleave. Not really. The empowered Flame Shocks that spread as base Flame Shocks, so you won't get the benefit on multiple targets. You'd have to actually put up a new Flame Shock on another target for it to be the empowered version. Spreading it with Lava Lash doesn't increase doesn't spread the powerful one. It just spreads like a baseline one. And Liquid Magma will be our go-to, maybe Cleave, definitely AoE talent anyway. In terms of the 90 tier, I imagine we're still going to use Primal Elementalist for a while. Still seems very strong, and I just like being carried by a fire elemental, really. So, that was a look at the changes. In terms of the class overall, I feel like Enhance is in a decent place. The AoE is much better in WoD, especially with Liquid Magma. We have some form of AoE going on now. It's a lot quicker to do with Liquid Magma. All you need to do is click Liquid Magma and we have instant AoE instead of having to build it up, which is great because there's a lot of times actually where we just don't get the time to get our flame shocks out there before the mobs die. We get like a couple spread and everything's dead. or you'll get one on a target and that target will be the one that just gets nuked by everyone. So having the option to have some instant AoE is very nice. So that's going to be, that's quite a nice quality of life change basically. Single target is still pretty strong. We still have decent amounts of burst, and they've kind of lowered burst and increased the sustain. So our burst is lower, but our sustain is higher. So there's a lot less of a gap between how high and low we go in the fights. Because right now we shoot up to like 2 million burst, then we drop down to like 400k sustain, then we shoot back up again. It's just this stupid up and down. So now it's a lot more leveled. So I'm fine with that. In terms of damage, in terms of single target, we look to be about mid-meters on single target and slightly higher on AoE. I think we have a pretty decently strong melee sort of AoE / cleave damage. In terms of utility, we are lacking slightly, especially with the removal of Stormlash and Healing Tide. We don't really bring as much to the table in terms of utility. We still have Lust, and we still have okay off heals with Healing Rain and Ancestral Guidance, but that's really all we bring. Luckily we still bring some utility in terms of CC. We still have the Earth Grab and Cap Totems, along with Frost Shock and Earth Bind if we don't spec into the Earth Grab. Bind Elementals is gone, but we never use that anyway. And we still have Hex, but that can't be used with Ancestral Swiftness. We have to hard cast it. Even with Maelstroms, we can't instant cast Hex anymore either. Has to be a long hard cast basically, as far as I know, unless that's been changed recently, which I don't think it has. Let's find out. Increases does not apply to Ancestral Spirit or Hex. There you go. Does not work with Hex. So yeah, but Hex has to be a full hard cast. But yeah, we still provide a decent amount of utility. I guess Purge will be nice-ish. And we'll have to see how many fights we actually use it with. But in general, we're slightly lower than most things in terms of the utility that we actually bring to the raid that will be useful. So overall, I think we're a middle ground class once again, which I'm fine with. I feel like we're gonna scale very, very well again this expansion. Taking haste as our main stat. I could be wrong, but I imagine we'll take haste as a main stat, and when we sort of hit the cap, we'll move on to Maestro. We'll see what happens. I'm not too sure how versatility is going to work out for us. I really don't quite get how the stat translates into damage, how much of it we need for it to be worthwhile, that kind of thing. So, don't really know about versatility. So I'm going to kind of forget about that for the time being. So I'm just going to assume it's going to be haste and then mastery and then crit in our stat order, but I could be wrong. We'll see. So, with enough babbling out of the way, let's take a look at the damage. Now, I'm not going to use Lust because, I'm going to try and avoid using the 10-minute cooldowns on classes because only a few have them, so it's kind of unfair. So we're just going to give it a pop. Wait, where's my Ancestral Swiftness? Let's get this on the bars. Let's get this set up on T. Get it pre-buffed, and we're gonna give it a whirl. For some reason I feel like really nervous, I don't even know. I should have popped my Unleashed Elements before we actually did anything. And how long did we DPS for last time? About a minute 40-ish. So we'll go for that. As you can see, we're hitting about 30k burst, which is quite nice. And as you've seen, the icon for our Ascendance has changed on Stormstrike. It's now called Windstrike, so it does a slightly different thing. The damage seems okay though. Still keeping 28k, but Fire Elemental is obviously still our burst cooldown, so we're going to keep that burst for a long period of time, which is always nice. I just really don't know where we're going to fit in Unleashed Elements into our rotation. I've tried a couple of sort of different versions, putting it lower, putting it higher, and I don't really seem to feel much difference. So that'll be down to the theory crafters, which one ends up being the best. Overall, for a little while, our lightning bolts were hitting for crazy amounts, to the point where it's pretty much worth hard casting them whenever there was an opportunity, really. There was a point where I could just hardcast Lightning Bolt and do pretty much the same amount of damage as I could without, and me rambling, I forgot to put down my totem. So, damage is okay. We're keeping 22k outside of burst, which is okay. We're probably going to drop down to about 21k now. Yeah, seems to be keeping 21k-ish. It's okay. How much was it on ret? It was like 20-ish k on ret. So, that's okay. Definitely not horrible. Burst was keeping up to like 30k, and we kept that 30k for quite a long time. Obviously Fire Elemental stays up for a minute, so we were getting a decent amount of damage there. And now we're going to give AoE a little try as soon as we can. Let's get this on the bars. Precast that. I'm going to go in and put down a Magma Totem. I'm going to use Liquid Magma. Now the unfortunate part is it's going crazy and attacking everything. Hopefully that doesn't mess up the damage values too much. But we should be okay, I think. So we're getting 55k, 60k AoE damage right now, which is a considerable amount, to be fair. Especially without Liquid Magma being up right now. I just put up a weaker Flame Shock, which isn't ideal. It's whatever. So we're still keeping 50k AoE damage without Liquid Magma up. As soon as that comes back up, I imagine we're going to burst back up to about 60k AoE. So, yeah, AoE is definitely not in a bad spot right now at all for Enhance. I'm getting those numbers out. For some reason, my damage dropped, but sure. So, AoE very, very nice. 50k, pretty much consistent, is beautiful. So, I'd say our AoE damage is up there as being one of the more consistently high from what I've seen so far. And oh, I didn't have Lightning Shield up either because I didn't have my when I changed talents. So yeah, overall, and if you've not seen it, look at the new Ghost Wolf. This makes any changes to Enhance like just worthwhile. Any good or bad, like the new Ghost Wolf is just amazing. I love it way too much. So, my overall verdict. I'm happy with Enhance. I would like a little bit more utility. I always like, that's why I play these hybrid classes, is to do damage and bring things to the raid. That's why I like Direct so much, you know, you bring all the hands and the Aura Mastery and stuff like that. And when they remove that, it just feels like a part of the classes has just been chunked away that I enjoyed. So, that's kind of sad to see go, but we still have okay utility. It just isn't anywhere near as good as it was before, and we won't be relied on as much to, you know, drop Healing Tide here, so or drop Stormlash here, so we get huge damage. Like, there's none of that anymore, and there's no real concern about major raid utility cooldowns. But overall, we can still make a difference through healing rains and stuff like that when the raid needs them. We can still definitely do a significant amount of off healing. Obviously we sacrifice a little bit of damage and we still have decent CC to bring to the raid. Damage is okay. As I said, I feel like we're going to scale pretty hard this expansion once again, so our single target damage is going to start off pretty low. Once we get some trinkets and weapons and tier set and stuff like that, we're going to bump up a little bit. And AoE damage seemed great. It was a lot higher than the rat anyway, in terms of consistency. Rat burst was higher, I think. Rat was hitting like 70k burst AoE, but dropped like quite significantly. So overall, I'm happy with Enhance. I feel like if you're an Enhance player, you'll still be happy. The rotation still feels smooth, and it'll feel smoother when we get more haste. Hopefully it won't get to the point where we have a little bit too much to press, but rotation still feels smooth. The class still feels pretty much the same. So yeah, I don't know where Enhance is going to be in PvP wise. I have a feeling it's not going to be that great in PvP, just because of the burst nerfs, the nerfs to Hex and stuff like that. But I'm not a PvPer, so I couldn't tell you at all. But in terms of PvP, I'm happy anyway. I'll be continuing to play my Enhance as a main pretty much through WoD. Paladin will be remaining on the sidelines, I think. And if you're an Enhanced player, I think you'll be happy as well. So, the other thing I'm sad about is Ascendance. If you look at the visual, we kind of just throw some wind. It's no longer that big, like, raw Ascendance. It's more just like, raw, some wind. Excuse me, that kind of thing. So, that's the only thing I could really complain about, is the lack of utility that we lost, and Wind Strike. And those aren't really big concerns to have. In terms of damage, I feel like we're fairly balanced. We're not weak. Definitely not weak anyway. We're mid of the meters at worst. And yeah, so I don't feel like any Enhanced players need to have any concerns. So thanks for watching, guys. If you have any questions regarding Enhanced, feel free to leave them in the comments below and I'll get back to them as soon as possible. Look out for more classes coming soon. I'm not too sure what's going to be next. Whatever I feel like, really. Maybe Hunter. We'll see. And yeah, look out for more videos. Don't forget to thumbs, favourite and subscribe. See ya!